6 o'clock now. I'll make it start. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Audit and Governance Committee. Please wear a mask until seated, maintain a sensible social distance when moving around the chamber, and use the hand sanitizer provided. The induction loop is now operative. Members and officers, please remember to switch microphones on and speak directly into the microphone and switch off again after speaking. Reporting officer using Teams, please switch cameras on and use the hands up icon to indicate questions and comments. The chair will invite you to speak. The meeting this evening will be live streamed to the public, and a recording of the meeting will be available on the Council's website within 4 hours of the meeting. Any exempt private items on the agenda, the live stream will cease prior to the meeting moving into private. There might be a short delay. Any apologies for absence?
None, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair, sorry, Councillor, apologies from Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, noted. Minutes of the meeting. Anybody have a chance to read the minutes?
Approve them, Chair.
Agreed, yeah? Yeah, thank you. Item 3, Section 106, Local Government Finance Act. Those items on the agenda affected by Section 106 of the Local Government Finance Act 1992 will be identified at the meeting. Any members so affected is reminded that he should disclose the fact and refrain from voting on those items.
None, Chair.
Thank you. Any disclosure of interest? None yet.
None that I'm aware of.
Any urgent business?
Again, none, Chair.
References from committee and other bodies?
None, Chair.
Agenda item 7, Shared Anti-Fraud Service Report.
Good evening, Chair.
Good evening.
I'm Nick Jennings. I'm the head of the Shared Anti-Fraud Service, and we have a report for members tonight, page 17 of your bundle. There are two parts to my report. One is to review the current anti-fraud activity undertaken across the council during the current year, and the second issue is to approve the anti-fraud plan that's been agreed with officers for 22-23. Chair, are you okay if I cover the anti-fraud plan first?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. So the plan that's been agreed with officers, members can find at page 23 of the bundle. And as I mentioned earlier, this plan's been agreed with officers, meets current best practice issued by SIPFA, the LGA and other organisations, and it covers all activity that will be undertaken over the next 12 months from April 2023 across the authority, including training for staff, fraud awareness, publication of anti-fraud activity, review of policies, investigation work, and the prevention work that we undertake with officers. Can't emphasise enough, Chairman, that the plan is very much a joint enterprise between the Shared Anti-Fraud Service and officers across the council. Although we draft the plan with officers, it's very much delivered in partnership, and much of the work that I'll talk about tonight is work that's delivered by officers as part of their day job. So it's very important that fraud and corruption are very high on the council's agenda, that we prevent that wherever possible. So the plan that's before you includes that activity that we've got in place for next year, the KPIs that have been agreed for my service for next year as well, so the authority can understand the value that service provides and the return on investment that the authority receives as well. There are several appendices with that plan. Don't intend to go through those too much. They've all been agreed with the officers. There are two documents, Appendix A and Appendix B within the plan itself, which are the checklist, the Fighting Fraud and Corruption Locally checklist, and the role of officers and members. And those are two documents that we will work with officers and members over the next 12 months to review, put together a formal response to ensure the council is meeting those standards that the Fighting Fraud and Corruption Locally strategy for local authorities sets in place for us to give us a good model to follow. Happy to take any questions from members on the plan if there are any questions, Chair.
Yeah, first of all, Councillor Underwood.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if it's just me, but I couldn't find appendices B, C and D in my pack.
They should the copy that I've seen, appendices A is at 30, B is at 33, C is at 34 and D is at 35, if that helps. That's the on the copy that's published on the council's website, councillor.
That's not what we have on that page order. That's not what we have.
Apologies, Chairs. I believe they've all been labelled Appendix A. I think all of them have been labelled Appendix A in error.
Okay.
That's probably the error there.
So Nick, can you just repeat that again, page? What page?
Yes, certainly. Appendix A within the report itself. So I apologise, as Kanchan says, there's been some changing with the numbers. So Appendix A is at page 30. Appendix B is at page 33. The SAF's KPIs for next year should be at page 34. And then the strategy, the Fighting Fraud and Corruption Locally strategy, members, you should be able to find that at page 35.
Thank you. Yeah, that's
okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yeah, Councillor Abbas.
Yeah, Nick, I've got a few. So Appendix A, page 30 and 31 and 34 are in different colours. Is there a colour coordination or is it just printed like that? Is it a traffic light system or?
I'm just having a those pages, councillor, just in reference to the different pillars. I think that's just to highlight that they're in particular areas.
Yeah, so I just thought, just check that. I thought there might be like a traffic light system or something like that, but it's okay. So coming to questions now. Obviously, I mean, we pay a premium to you guys to do the work. I've noticed that you've added a few other stuff into the key KPI. Obviously, the premium goes up, but looking at the KPIs from last year, comparing them, you've added extra workload in them. So on page, I think it's Appendix C, page 33, 34, the KPIs.
Yes.
You've under section 5, you put 100% review for all right to buy applications. Number C, number D, number E. Why have you added these in to these KPIs? Did you pick up a lot of intel or information from the previous year?
Yeah, those KPIs are very similar to last year in the plan. So they are there to help us identify, well, they're there to give us a target to achieve to assist in that return on investment for the authority. So we've got C, D and E, which is to recover 12 social properties. So those are council properties that have been misused. 12 temporary accommodation reviews to try and identify if there is any fraud in the temporary accommodation stock that the council has, people waiting on the housing register, and then the 100% review of all right to buy applications. So that process is to ensure there is no money laundering involved in any of the right to buy applications that the council receives.
Okay, and I see on paragraph 33, so I think this might apply to the next session, but I'm not sure. You got 33, page 21, 33, 34. Is that related to this session or the next one?
They're either, because that's dealing with the list of background papers. Is that right, councillor?
Yes, that's it. Okay. Yeah. So you say that you've undertaken, I mean, some sort of an initiative, the NFI.
Yes.
Okay. You give some figures here. Are these figures national figures or are they Luton-based figures?
The figures in the report, so the ones that I mentioned, I think
33 and 34.
Yeah, so that's in sections 26 and 27 where we mentioned the National Fraud Initiative. Those figures are specifically for Luton Borough Council.
Okay, so those figures that stated they are for Luton Borough Council, yeah, not
That's
national.
correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And just the last one is that I remember from our previous meeting, you were having problems regarding training, the staff intake. How far have you got with that? Because you mentioned 10 sessions of training. Are you getting the staff intake in that?
Yes. Yeah, I have to say we've delivered quite a lot of training recently to the housing team and to the Revs and Ben's team as well. The staff, the management within the teams are very responsive. They're very supportive of that training. So we've been working very closely with a HR team to do that. What we are planning to do as well is to build on the e-learning training that we've got deployed at the council. At the minute that training is there for all staff. What we want to do is just improve the reporting on that so we can ensure staff are actually accessing and aware of that training.
Final one is that I see that so you're getting a lot of public reporting the fraud to us, yeah? And
Yes.
I remember over the years in these meetings saying that it's important to get our website right, it's important to get our comms right, the media as well. You know, so where are these? So are the public ringing up, or are they using the actual website to report these frauds? How are they doing this?
They use a whole variety of methods to report matters to us. So they can use the website. On the council's website now, there is a link straight through to the Shared Anti-Fraud Service web pages, and people can report fraud directly to us. They can telephone us, they can email us, or they can use our online reporting service. So they can remain completely anonymous in anything they report to us. I have to say the response from the public in Luton is outstanding. Clearly, the public have trust in the authority. They believe that action will be taken if they report fraud to the council, whether it's through my service or directly to officers working at the council.
Yeah, thank you very much. And again, yeah, I've supported every year we come and we do these meetings, and I'm always supported of how much you save this council. And again, even though we pay a high premium, you do save us a lot of money in clawing back that fraud. How many cases do you have actually outstanding at the judicial system at the minute? Because obviously not all of these have been dealt with, that process.
No, very few matters actually end up before a court. The vast majority can be dealt with administratively. It's about putting things right. Currently, we have 3 cases as part of the court, sort of in the court service at the moment. So there are 3 cases either awaiting trial or sentence. And we have a number of matters that are outstanding with the civil courts as well around the recovery of council properties.
Okay, thank you for that, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Underwood.
Thank you, Chair. The KPIs on page 29, who reviews whether they've or decides whether they've been met? Is that the senior stakeholders or?
Yeah, we meet with Dev and Kanchan on a very frequent basis to discuss performance against the KPIs. So they ensure that they keep us very close to those and delivering the service each year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? No questions, no comment. You have anything add to your report?
Can I just mention that the second part of the report, Chair, is dealing with the current work that's been undertaken at the authority. So this starts at section 21 of the report that members have, and this actually outlines the volume of work that we're seeing coming into the service at the moment, and certainly till the end of I think it's the end of December. Last year, we'd had 263 allegations of fraud. Clearly, they are referrals, they're allegations. It's not proven fraud at that point. We have to review each of those individually. But again, the report talks about where that fraud is being reported, and it's fairly common that we see the fraud being reported around council tax and housing benefit, particularly around the council's housing stock. But we've also had matters, allegations about business fraud and COVID grant fraud as well. So that's broken down for members on that section within your report. Then we just go on again, as I think the Councillor Bass picked up earlier on, who's reporting fraud to us. We break that down that the public by far and away over 190 referrals from members of the public in the first 9 months of this year. So clearly they have confidence that if they report things to the council, they will be resolved. And staff as well are still reporting matters, 60 matters reported by members of staff from fraud that they suspect within their service areas. So this is where people working in housing, for example, might suspect that somebody's subletting their council property, and we work with them to investigate those matters. We also carried forward quite a large holding of files at the beginning of the year, around 127 cases. We currently have 114 cases live and subject to investigation. The estimated fraud loss in that workload is just over £1 million at the moment. And we've actually closed 82 cases so far this year and identified just shy of about £961,000 of fraud loss or fraud savings for the authority. So we're sort of very close to £1 million. On top of that, we do have those cases that we're taking forward as criminal prosecutions. We've also recovered 14 council properties this year, which has enabled the authority to re-let those properties to people on the housing waiting list or in temporary accommodation. So that's always a really good news story. And we have already conducted 119 right to buy reviews. So this is where council tenants are considering purchasing the council properties using the right to buy process. And we have in place some checks and balances just to make sure that if we are selling those properties, we're selling them to the right people and the finance supporting those sales is legitimate, hasn't come as a result of money laundering. We just go on in the report to talk about the National Fraud Initiative. This is a massive piece of work. It takes place every 2 years. It involves quite literally thousands of matches and reports for officers to consider, and the work that's gone on with that across the authority over the last 12 months has been really, really high level, identifying significant savings for the authority. Be quite clear about that. Although my team assists and provides some training around that work is largely down to council officers to review. The other good piece of news is that part of that data matching exercise this year was looking at grants, the COVID grant application process. Very pleased to say that the council got a clean bill of health around its grant applications. We hear quite a lot in the news about fraud around the COVID grant schemes, but we've done a lot of work there to make sure that the council has in place a robust process and gets the right payment out to the right people at the right time. So that should give members of this committee a lot of assurance about that. And then just to finish on the role that my team has now taken on around money laundering. So we're looking at reviewing some of the council policies at the moment so that we can undertake the money laundering role for the authority hopefully from April this year. I don't have anything else to report at this time, Chair, but if anybody's got any questions for me, happy to take those now.
Thank you. Councillor Abbas, please.
One question, Nick. So I was looking at this report and I was thinking there was something missing here, and I just clocked it. What is missing? The staffing. Normally you have a table here of how much staffing you're letting us borrow at the council. Apparently you've not put that in here this time round. So going from the previous year's timetable of staffing levels, is there anything you've changed?
No, as we've mentioned before, but normally this is just an update, councillor, so it's not as full as the report would normally be. There will be a report for you in the summer that goes right back and looks in detail at all the activity undertaken. But we have in place an arrangement that we will provide for full-time equivalent staff to work for Luton Borough Council, and we've met that requirement throughout the year.
Yeah, because normally you have a nice table that says how many staff you have in which areas and what we're sharing with you as well. So okay, so that's coming in September in the full report then, yeah?
That's correct. Yes.
No worries. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bernard.
Yeah, thank you for your report. This is a question in regards to looking ahead. With the change in the world we're going on with digitalisation and the decentralisation of money, with crypto and digital currency, what are you and the officers doing to start get prepared to understand what is heading our way?
That's a great question. Horizon viewing is something that we're always aware of. And what we do is we're members of a number of organisations. So we're members of CIPFA, we're members of CIFAS, we're part of the Fraud Advisory Panel. So we rely on those organisations to give us an idea of what's coming next. And we work very closely with officers at our senior level across the authority to make sure that as those things become relevant to us, we take them into account when we design new policies and processes. So as you say, a lot of our services are becoming digitised. So we've got to ensure that when we're dealing with customers via that channel, we've got the right things in place to ensure that we're dealing with the right people and that those people are applying for the right services from the authority. So there's a lot of work that goes on in the background, particularly around IT security and the council's networks. But I think, delivering services digitally is not something new necessarily for local authorities. I think the biggest change that we're facing at the moment is actually how our workforce works and how we communicate with our workforce now that we're looking at certainly officers spending much more time working from home rather than in the office. So it's making sure that they're aware of what their fraud risks are and they're aware of how they can report those to us.
I think my concern is, from what I'm picking up and reading, that the role of banks, because we go to the banks to get information on people's bank accounts. Yes, if we're looking at fraud, and what's coming upstreams is that the role of banks are likely to change with digital currency, cryptocurrency, fintech technology, where the individual can do international payments and all that without having a bank account. So what I was trying to understand is what is CIPFA and everybody else, because I know I'm proactively trying to understand. So what is officers and the sector doing to understand what's coming downstream?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and actually today I received a report from CIFAS and the Credit Industry Fraud Avoidance Service, that's what CIFAS refers to, run another acronym, their OFIG, which are their intelligence groups, and what they're looking at on a daily basis is what's going on, what's coming down the line, what's going on now that's new, what are we seeing, what are those new and emerging fraud threats that we see, and certainly, fintech, as you mentioned, and cryptocurrency, it's something we need to be aware of, but the vast majority of our services is still delivered through traditional banking. The way that we bank and how we pay people, we still generally, as a local authority, we deal with those the way that, with high street banks in a very similar way, and our transactions with them, although they're becoming a bit slicker, the process in the background is still very similar. I think moving to cryptocurrency is probably something which is still one step ahead of us, because we don't really transact in that way to deliver our services. Does that help?
You're saying that currently we're not envisioning taking payment in any of the 14,000 different types of cryptos that are out there, and we're not likely to take any way of people making payments through their phones and not going through a bank, because with the fintech technology, you don't need to have a bank account once you've got a phone. So you don't envisage us ever being caught in that area yet.
I'm not saying that we're not considering that as a local authority. That's really something for I'm sure Dev's probably got a better head on that than I have at the moment, but I'm sure there'll be something in place for the local authority when it's transacting, that it transacts in a particular way and there is appropriate security in place. The banks have actually done a lot in the background at the moment to ensure that when we're dealing with people, we know who our customers are. There was a big drive particularly during COVID, to make sure that we know who our customers are, we know who makes us payments to us, and we're able to communicate with those people as they make payments. Yes, it's the big thing on the horizon, but I think at the moment that the authority still transacts in the way that it has done for some time, but happy for Dev to come in there.
Thank you, Jackie. Any more questions from anybody? No?
Chair, I think Dev wants to say something on that.
Yeah, Dave, sorry.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, good evening, Councillor. So, yeah, Councillor Burnett, you're absolutely right. The world of banking, the world of financial institutions and the way transactions are done, it's changing. So you're absolutely right. Private sector normally are faster in these things. Local government, we have to follow. But this is something which we'll have to keep an eye. But right now, they are risks associated with cryptocurrency and other platform for payment. But that doesn't mean that in 5 years' time, the council will have to explore. But if there's a demand there and there's a customer, there's a need, then local government will have to react. So this will be something probably will be something on LGA. So it has to be done at local government level and central government level as well to say, okay, is there a policy for the council and local government, and not only local government and other sort of non-central government and other government organization to have a policy in terms of dealing with cryptocurrency. But absolutely, it has to be on our radar because the world is changing. People, the way they trade, deal, and everything is changing. But absolutely, that's a very good, valid point to just see and assess what is coming in a couple of years' time or 3 years' time. But right now, no, there is no policy of accepting these types of currencies. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Nothing. Neil, did you finish your did you finish your report?
Yes, yeah.
You have anything to add?
Nothing
yeah.
further.
Thank you very much for your report, and I would like to say thank you to you and your team on behalf of our committee for excellent and great job in terms of recovering of councils, properties, and other money and in terms of anti-fraud unit. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Thank you.
Moving item agenda number 8 is corporate risk update. I believe Kancha, are you presenting it? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This report is a corporate risks update to members and to give you an update in terms of risk management work that we have undertaken. If I could spend a few minutes on this report, just to kind of outline some of the changes that we have gone through. Section 7 of the report provides an update since the last update was provided to members. So the risk management project, which had been underway to implement the new 4x4 risk assessment matrix, which would give owners more flexibility in scoring their risks and provide more granular information as to what their key risks might be. I'm pleased to say that that project has now been completed. All of the risks have been reassessed using the new risk matrix and guidance issued to risk owners. The Council's risk management strategy has been reviewed and updated to include the new risk matrix, and also we've added a set criteria for the assessment of the likelihood of the risk occurring and impact to ensure that a consistent approach is applied when risk owners are assessing their risks. SIPFA have also delivered 3 risk management training sessions to officers and members during this current financial year, and a further training session to members is planned for April 22. Section 8 provides details of the new 4x4 risk assessment matrix. So as members are aware, the risk is always scored twice. The first is the initial assessment, assessing the risk without any controls in place, and the second is the residual assessment after considering the controls in place. The criteria used to assess this risk is detailed in the table in section 9. So this is the consistent criteria, if you like, that risk owners can now use when they're actually using the scoring matrix, and provides that consistency in the approach in terms of how the risks are being scored. Section 10 provides details of the 4 T's of risk management, which summarises the different stages that can be used to manage the risks. So these are your tolerate, terminate, treat or transfer the risks. There are currently 35 risks on the corporate risk register. Since the last update, there have been no changes to the risks, but all of the risks have been reassessed using the new 4x4 risk assessment matrix. The appendix at Appendix A provides full details of these corporate risks. It also shows a comparison between the previous 3x3 score and the new 4x4 residual scores, and also gives you a direction of travel for each risk in terms of whether the scores have increased in terms of prioritisation or whether they have decreased. The majority of them, as you'll see, have remained approximately the same for around 22 risks, so they're still considered to be medium. One has slightly increased from a low to a medium low, and 12 risks have actually been reduced using the new 4x4 risk assessment matrix. This time round, we have also reviewed the high priority risks as well. So the risks for the high priority risks have been reduced from 12 to 5 now. And the table at section 13 shows the reassessment of 7 of those high priority risks to medium high. And it also provides an update in terms of the measures that have been introduced to reduce some of those risks. Section 14 of the report provides a new heat map for members to review what the risk landscape looks like for the authority. So as you can see from the heat map, the majority of the risks are still medium, and you have those 5 high priority risks at the top end of the block there. The details of the 5 high priority risks are detailed in section 15, and these mainly relate to failure to recruit and retain staff, the loss or collapse of key IT applications and unauthorised access to personal data. You have the risk around the current demand profile, poverty and looting continues to result in an overspend on the agreed budget, failure to improve the decline and look of the town centre, and the impact of COVID on staff is still considered to be a high risk at this point in time. I'm happy to take any questions on that report, Chair.
Thank you, Kanche. Councillor Bernard, please.
Yeah, thank you for this. And I'm conscious of timing because I'm thinking about when did you write the report? Because of the conflict in Ukraine and Russia and its impact to fuel. I didn't see anything in the report with regards to the cost of living. And I know the government has helped out the domestic, which I'm really happy about, but we're here to think about the council. And I know some local authorities, their gas bills or energy bills gone up by 8 million. So I would have thought that would have been in here as a risk to the council in us, even though we've signed up our budget, meeting our commitments during the year. And now the conflict in Ukraine and Russia is compounding it, not just to the local authority, but to the community. So I would have expected that in there, but it could be timing. So if you could come back on that, that would be really good. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, it's to do with the timing issue. So certainly we can discuss with the risk owners around those areas and feedback again at the next one. Thank you.
Depending on how the world moves, it will be reflected in here, yeah?
Yes, of course. I'll take that back and I'll discuss that with the risk owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Abbas.
Mine was just a simple one. Is have we made any headway with the Ernst & Young regarding the sign-off of the budget and of the accounts?
If I could ask Deb to answer that one, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Abbas. Yeah, we made significant progress. We are meeting with Ernst & Young on the 22nd of March. In fact, I had an hour meeting with the field staff, so we've made significant progress. There's a couple of technical matters, especially with evaluation. and a couple of other technical matters which we are getting advice from Deloitte. So there is a meeting on the 22nd. We are meeting at Capability Green. That's where Ernst & Young office is. So they're bringing their team and we are bringing our team. And hopefully by that time, we should have resolved everything. And that's what is our target. And then we'll be moving towards sort of signing off the accounts. So I will bring an update to the audit committee after that meeting on 22nd of March. But I have to say significant progress have been made. There's one or two couple of technical matters which are getting some additional external advice to give reassurance to auditors. But then what they do then, they have to, as Neil mentioned and Janet mentioned, they will escalate to their panel of partners and their quality review. So like everything done by that time, by end of March, and then they go through the proper quality assurance process. So I have to say there hasn't been anything new or additional which they have brought to our attention. So it's just progressing with those matters. Thanks, Chair.
That's it, yeah. Thank you. Any more questions? No. Kancha, can you carry on, please?
The next report on page 82 is the internal audit plan update. This is to provide the committee with an update on the work that the Internal Audit Service has carried out for the first 3 quarters of this year. If I can take you through to section 6 of the report. So the audit plan is risk-based and it is prepared in consultation with management, including a review of risk registers and known areas of risk and approved by CLMT and Audit Committee. It is intended to be indicative of the work that will be done during the year. The plan is resourced assuming that we will have an anticipated full complement of staff and was set at 1,200 days. Section 8 of the report details that we do have access to a framework agreement for the provision of internal audit services from Mazars as required, and as part of this year's audit plan they are delivering some of our key IT audit reviews. At the time of writing this report, we do have 1 full-time equivalent vacancy within the internal audit team, and as discussed at the last update, recruitment to this post is currently on hold as we are carrying out a review of the team structure and looking at the level and mix of the skill auditors required to ensure that we continue to deliver a high value and highly professional internal audit service. In addition to this, we have had 1 member of the team who has been on long-term sick during the year, and to make up some of this shortfall, 2 members of the team have been working some additional hours. Our target is to achieve 90% of the audit plan, but we may just fall short of this. So as part of this year's audit plan, we have been ensuring that we have been targeting our resources to ensure there is sufficient coverage of the plan and that all key audit areas are completed. Section 11 of the report mentions that we've completed 67% of the plan as at Q3. We have issued 42 final audit reports, and of those, 5 have been issued a limited assurance. 3 of those 5 were issued in Q1 and related to the work that had been finalised in relation to the previous financial year, and a summary of those findings had been provided to the committee in the July meeting. We are currently undertaking physical follow-up reviews of all limited assurance opinions, and an update will be provided as part of the year-end report in terms of the progress made by those areas to address those weaknesses identified. As an update on the new assurances which have been issued, section 16 details those. So Queen Elizabeth School, that's received a limited assurance because we identified a number of internal control weaknesses across the majority of the areas examined during our review. Since the review, the school have confirmed that considerable progress has been made to implement the agreed recommendations and to strengthen the internal controls. Our 6-monthly follow-up review has actually just been completed, so we should be able to provide you with an update on that at the next committee meeting. Mazars have also carried out 2 independent IT audit reviews of the Council's IT arrangements and IT transition programme. The review identified weaknesses in the systems of controls which put most of the service objectives at risk. Which is why they issued a limited assurance opinion on those reviews. A first physical follow-up review will be carried out in 22-23 to confirm the implementation of the agreed recommendations. Management have agreed the recommendations together with the IT provider to address the control weaknesses identified. Section 18 of the report details the recommendations which we have followed up on. During the year, we followed up on 208 recommendations, and I'm pleased to report that 79% of those recommendations have been fully implemented. There have been some delays in fully implementing some of these recommendations due to the impact of COVID and services and schools focusing on the response to the pandemic. But as we have progressed through the year, we've seen that percentage increase gradually, so that's a good result. I'm happy to take any questions on that report, Chair.
Thank you, Kancha. Any questions, please? Yeah, Councillor Abbas.
So on page 90, you got BTS, housing, and Foxell Homes with no status is next to them. So can you explain that, please? So that's page 90. Housing is high, but no status. BTS high again, no status. And Foxell Homes medium, but no status next to it.
Sorry, is that Appendix A, page 90?
Yes.
As part of the plan. So the third-party reviews, so the categorisation, so this is the audit plan risk assessment category that we identify when we assess the audit reviews. Most of the high priorities have been assessed based on whether it's a cyclical review or it feeds into the annual assurance opinion, or whether it's a grant certification in terms of the work has to be completed in relation to that. Some of the high priority risks are also linked to the risk registers as well. So as part of the authority's risk registers, there are some high risks on there which link back to some of the areas which we've reviewed. So there's a number of factors which have been taken into account as we kind of risk assess some of these areas for review. In terms of third-party audit reviews, where we've talked about Foxell Homes, and that's on page 93. So the work on that, so so the medium status is around the work on this has not been started, so that's why there's nothing against that at the moment. Otherwise it would have been a final or a work in progress status if there's been any time charged against those audit reviews.
So no work at all has started on Foxall Homes or anything like that when you come into near enough an end?
Not at this point in time. We're planning on doing a follow-up review for Foxall Homes. This is up until the end of December. So these results are. So as part of this year's programme, Foxall Homes, there was an independent review on the governance arrangements which were carried out by Mazars last year. So the plan for this year is to do a follow-up on those recommendations to assess the implementation of those. So that's being planned for, or should be in progress as part of this final quarter.
Okay, so this is up till 31st of December 2022.
2021.
21. Okay, so last year. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Abbas. Councillor Underwood, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just like to say, start off with, I like the new appearance and format of Appendix A. When you're having to wade through all these pages of information, it makes it it's good for it to look nice, and yeah. On page 83, the structure, the review of the team's structure is underway. Do you know when that will be finished?
So the JDs are being looked at the moment, and that will just need to go through a formal consultation. So that's near completion now. We have increased the posts as part of next year's audit plan for one post. So when I discuss the next audit report, we have increased the days because of the planned work that we're doing for LAL. So there's been an increase in that.
Thank you. Sorry, just and it's not going to be a massive restructuring. It's just that.
It's mainly having a look at our a vacancy that we have for our trainee auditor vacancy, to change that or to convert that into a more senior auditor post, purely because of the level of work that we're actually undertaking at this point in time. We do need that experienced auditors to be able to conduct that work. In relation to the additional work that we're planning for Lal, there is a requirement for an additional post for that. So again, we'll be recruiting for another permanent member of staff to join the team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you for your excellent and detailed report, Kancha. I need recommendations from the members. The committee is recommended to receive the internal audit plan update report, which covers the period from 1st of April 2021 to 31st of December 2021. Yeah, thank you. Can I move agenda item number 10 is Internal Audit Strategy, Chartered and Annual Audit Plan 2022-23. It's Kancha again, I think, yeah.
Thank you. So this report is the annual audit plan for next year. So the report sets out the context for the provision of the internal audit service and explains the risk-based audit approach we've used to develop the annual audit plan for 22-23. The recommendation is for the committee to consider and approve the Audit Strategy, Charter and Annual Audit Plan for 22-23. Appendix 1 contains the details of the strategy and how the council will meet its statutory requirements for internal audit, making sure that we focus our audit resources to those areas where the highest risks to the achievement of the council's objectives lie. So these have been identified and prioritised using the council's own risk assessment processes and consultation with senior management. As part of this year's planning process, we have also reviewed the corporate high priority risks, and we have assurance mapped those to identify those key areas of risks which we need to cover as part of the plan for 22-23. We have also looked at the horizon scanning to make sure that we're considering the emerging risks and opportunities as well as part of the annual audit plan. If I could take you through some of the key aspects of the strategy. So let me just, so page 114 of the strategy. So at the end, it describes the roles and responsibilities. For internal audit, the roles and responsibilities in terms of looking at governance of risk, 3 lines of model. Internal audit is the 3rd line of role. So we are the assurance function which provides independent and objective assurance and reports directly to the governing body, which is the Audit and Governance Committee, in terms of the findings of our review, and to provide that level of assurance in terms of the overall risk management internal control processes of an organisation. So we do provide an end of year report detailing the annual audit opinion in terms of the effectiveness of the control environment. Section 8 of the report details, so this is page 116 of the strategy, details the internal audit resources and the skills required, and this leads on in terms of the increasing the establishment of the internal audit team from 6.98 full-time equivalent to 7.98 full-time equivalent. So this is the additional post that we mentioned earlier on, to enable the team to undertake a comprehensive audit plan for the council subsidiary companies and also provide the increased audit coverage for the council. So next year's audit plan has been increased by 180 days. So whereas we would normally have a plan for 1,200 days, the expectation is that we have a plan for 1,380 days to deliver, taking into account the additional work. Section 9 of the strategy at page 118. This summarises the change in the different areas that we've reviewed. So you'll be able to see that we've increased the number of days under corporate cross-cutting reviews. Service-specific reviews have been increased, and the third-party audit reviews have also been increased. So that's where the 180 days have been taken into account as part of the plan. We also have a contingency of 50 days within the plan. So this is to provide for any unplanned or reactive work, and it will be used to respond to emerging issues, risks and requests from senior managers as well. Section 10 details the key issues and priority areas of work for 22-23. Page 119 details these key areas of review. The first is around the governance and risk management arrangements. We have a key role to play in assessing the effectiveness of the governance arrangements. So this is a key piece of work that we undertake. Corporate cross-cutting reviews. As I mentioned earlier, we have assurance mapped the authority's high priority risks. So we are making sure that we cover those high priority risks and can assess in terms of what controls are in place to manage those risks and how effective they are. Key financial systems, it's important that we provide annual assurance on the effectiveness and adequacy of the council's fundamental financial systems in place. Procurement and contract management, again, it's to build on the work that we've undertaken within procurement and to assess the appropriateness and effectiveness of the control systems in place around this area. Ict and Information Governance, again, it's kind of fundamental to the delivery of the council services and ensuring that we comply with the GDPR regulations as well. For our school audit reviews, we aim to visit approximately 20% of our maintained schools, and this is something that we will do on a cyclical basis, including any follow-up reviews of any limited or no assurance opinions issued during the year as well. Counter fraud, as you're aware, we're in partnership with the Shared Anti-Fraud Service, and Nick mentioned as part of his report in relation to the NFI work that's been undertaken and the Fraud Hub as well. Third-party audit reviews. This is to undertake comprehensive audit plans of the council subsidiary companies. So these are the key areas and the focuses of our work planned for next year. Appendix A of the strategy at page 123 details the internal audit charter, and it sets out the roles and responsibilities of internal audit in terms of the authority that we have, reporting arrangements, and also the information that we provide to Audit and Governance Committee as well. Appendix B of the annual audit plan. Again, this details the breakdown of the areas that we will review during the year, and the last appendix on page 147 details the KPIs that we report to and that we would assess against. Happy to take any questions on that, Chair.
Thank you, Kancha. Yeah, Councillor Abbas.
Yeah, I've got two. The first one is that we were having issues of cash and card payments in some of our schools where they were collecting cash and it wasn't tallying up. Have we sorted that concern out? Are they in line now to not cash no more?
For the audit work that we carried out, is that in relation?
Yeah, it was in relation to some audit works that we had. Some schools they didn't tally up on the cash payments.
Okay, so as part of our school audit programme, we do cover the income collection and the banking side of things. That the school programmes are quite comprehensive. They cover a range of areas from governance, purchasing, income collection, all the way through to asset management as well. And as part of that review, we would look at those areas. The audit report that we've issued are limited. It may be in relation to, I'm just thinking it could be one of the follow-ups that we did where we mentioned as part of an update in relation to the specific issue around the card payment. So what we would do as part of the follow-up process is assess with the school in terms of what have they put in place to address those issues, and if we're happy with the implementation of those additional controls, then we would sign it off. Otherwise, we'll work with the school to ensure that they've resolved those weaknesses.
Last one is regarding highways and schools. Again, it's an uncertainty at the minute. So fuel prices have rocketed up. Just overnight 30p at some pumps have gone up per litre. And obviously we run a fleet, take kids to school, adults, children's, and in schools we have heating, but that does not mention any no risk factors in this report at all. So what contingency plans have we got in that circumstances?
So as part of the audit work planned for next year, certainly those are things. So every time we carry out an audit review within an individual area, we have an assessment that we undertake. So we discuss the key emerging risks for that area. So as we scope out the audit review, it could be things like that which are relevant to those areas. We can kind of take that into consideration and how are they mitigating against those risks. So certainly those aspects could form a part of the audit review as we scope that out for those areas.
Thank you. Constable Javaria, please.
Sorry, Chair, you're going to have to bear with me. I've just locked myself out.
No worries. Take your time.
Suspense. So thanks very much, Officer, for your report. On page 114, the key core deliverables for 2022-2023, above section 4, the roles and responsibilities, you've got the 2 bullet points above. It says to promote the council's anti-fraud and corruption strategy and carry out investigation of suspected frauds and irregularities. Should get my words right here. I'm presuming that also includes, suspicions of money laundering and stuff. So, I mean, I would perhaps stick in there to say, which for the avoidance of doubt includes money laundering.
Yes, we can include that in there to update that. Okay.
Is that okay, Javaria? Councillor Underwood, please. Okay, sorry. Any more questions? You finish your report, Councillor. Anything to add?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask the members again for this report? The committee is recommended to consider and approve the internal audit strategy chartered and annual audit plan for 2022 and 23. Thank you. It's approved. And I think is everything here today is all done. Yeah, thank you very much for your